My name is Amelia, and welcome to MindFlow English. Today, we are beginning an important and eye-opening journey together. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Picture yourself in a meeting room. The room is quiet. Everyone is waiting for you to speak. You take a breath, you open your mouth, and you say your first sentence in English. You want to sound confident. You want to sound clear. You want to sound professional. But suddenly, something feels wrong. The words come out, but they do not sound the way you hoped. Maybe you hesitate. Maybe your sentence feels too casual. Maybe your pronunciation becomes unsure. And in that moment, you wonder if you made a mistake. This moment happens to millions of English learners around the world every single day. And it is not because their English is bad. It is because they have developed a few bad habits without realizing it. These habits follow them into conversations, presentations, interviews, business meetings, and professional situations. And the truth is simple. Even small habits can make a big difference in how others see you and how confident you feel. In today's lesson, I want to help you remove those invisible obstacles. I want to help you understand the 7 bad habits that many English learners carry with them, often for years. These habits limit fluency, reduce clarity, and weaken professional communication. But once you recognize them, you can change them. And when you change them, you change the way people hear you, the way you deliver your ideas, and the way you show up in the world. Before we dive into the 7 habits, I want to set the tone for today's session. This is not a typical English lesson. You and I are going deeper. You and I are focusing on awareness, confidence, and mastery. Every habit we talk about today will include explanations, examples, and practical corrections you can apply immediately. This is your space to grow, to upgrade your skills, and to speak English the way you have always wanted to speak it. Let's begin with a question. When you think about speaking English professionally, what comes to your mind first? Do you think about vocabulary? Do you think about grammar? Do you think about pronunciation? These are important, but they are not the biggest problem. Many learners already know enough vocabulary. Many learners already understand grammar rules. Many learners already practice pronunciation. The problem is not what you know. The problem is how you use what you know. In professional English, communication is the goal, not perfection. Confidence is the style, not overthinking. Clarity is the priority, not complexity. But when learners feel nervous, pressured, or unsure, they fall into certain patterns without noticing them. Today you are going to discover those patterns. Before we begin listing the 7 habits, I want you to understand something essential. A habit is not a mistake. A mistake is something accidental. A habit is something repeated. A habit becomes comfortable. A habit becomes automatic. And because it becomes automatic, it becomes powerful. A habit can either support you or sabotage you. It can make you sound professional or make you sound uncertain. Today, you will learn how to choose the habits that help you, not the habits that hold you back. So, let's begin with a story. Imagine an English learner named Daniel. He studies English often. He watches YouTube lessons, listens to podcasts, and reads articles. But every time he speaks English at work, something strange happens. His sentences become longer than necessary. He fills pauses with unnecessary words. He apologizes every time he makes a small error. He speaks softly, even when he knows the answer. And because of these habits, People at work assume he is less confident than he actually is. Now imagine another learner named Hannah. Her grammar is not perfect. Her vocabulary is not advanced. Her pronunciation is not native-like, but she speaks clearly, directly, and confidently. She uses simple sentences. She pauses naturally. She does not rush. She does not apologize for every small mistake. People perceive her as professional, calm, and competent. The difference between Daniel and Hannah is not talent. It is not intelligence. It is not education. The difference is habits. Your habits shape your English more than anything else. And in this video, I will help you identify the 7 habits that can make your English sound less professional, less confident, and less effective. I will also show you how to replace each habit with something better, something simpler, and something more powerful. Before we go into habit number 1, I want you to reflect on your own English for a moment. When you speak in a professional context, do you ever feel unsure? Do you feel pressure to sound perfect? Do you sometimes feel that people misunderstand your confidence level? If the answer is yes, you are not alone. Every learner goes through this. What matters is not where you are right now. What matters is where you decide to go next. And today, you are choosing to change how you speak, how you communicate, and how you express your ideas. In a moment, we will begin with the first habit. It is one of the most common habits in English communication, and it affects millions of learners. This habit can instantly make you sound less confident, even when your grammar is correct and your vocabulary is strong. It is something so small, so simple, that most learners never notice it. But once you understand it, you will immediately begin to sound more fluent, more natural, and more professional. Take a breath, get ready, because in part 2, we begin with habit number 1. Habit number 1 is something you have probably done many times without realizing it. In fact, almost every English learner has this habit at some stage in their learning journey. It is the habit of overusing filler words. Words like, basically, actually, kinda, and sorta. These words are not wrong by themselves. Native speakers also use them, but there is a difference. Native speakers use them naturally, usually in casual conversation. English learners often use them because they are searching for words, feeling nervous, or trying to fill silence. And when this happens, it creates a very different impression. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are in a professional meeting and someone asks you a question. You begin answering like this. So I, think this idea is, kinda useful because, actually, it helps us solve the problem. You had a good idea, but the message was hidden behind filler words. The person listening may think you are unsure or unprepared, even if your ideas are strong. Now imagine another version. The same question is asked, and you answer like this. I believe this idea is useful because it helps us solve the problem. You did not say more. You did not use complicated vocabulary, but the sentence sounds confident, clear, and professional. The difference is not grammar. It is not vocabulary. It is the absence of unnecessary fillers. Why do English learners overuse filler words? The reason is simple. They want to avoid silence. Silence feels uncomfortable. When you pause, you feel pressure. You feel like others are waiting. So you insert a filler word. But here is the truth. Silence is not a mistake. Silence is a tool. Professionals use pause and silence intentionally. A short pause shows clarity. It shows that you are thinking. It shows that you have something meaningful to say. Silence adds power to your message. When you choose silence instead of filler words, you sound more confident. You sound more thoughtful. You sound more professional. In professional English, silence communicates maturity. Filler words communicate uncertainty. So the habit you want to build is simple. Pause, breathe, then speak. Do not rush to fill the silence. Let's practice together. Think of a question someone might ask you in a meeting. For example, what do you think about this proposal? Your instinct might be to say, I think it is good, but try this instead. I think it is good. Or even better, let me think for a moment. I believe it is good. These sentences are clear, natural, and respectful. They show confidence without forcing anything. I want you to understand something important. Removing filler words does not mean you must speak perfectly. It does not mean you cannot make mistakes. You can still pause. You can still think. You can still breathe. But now, your pauses will have purpose. Your pauses will communicate confidence, not fear. Now we move to habit number 2. And this is a habit that many learners develop over years, without noticing the effect it has on their professional communication. This habit is apologizing too much. Saying sorry is polite, but apologizing for every small mistake or hesitation makes you sound insecure. It makes you sound like you do not trust your own English. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine you are giving a presentation and you forget a word. You might say, sorry. I mean, the report will be ready soon. But someone else in the same situation might say, let me rephrase. The report will be ready soon. One person apologizes 3 times. The other person simply corrects themselves and continues. Which one sounds more confident? The second person. Which one sounds more professional? Again, the second person. In English-speaking business environments, apologizing too much can make your message weaker. You do not need to apologize for searching for a word. You do not need to apologize for a small pronunciation mistake. You do not need to apologize for needing a moment to think. These moments are natural. Even native speakers experience them. Only apologize when there is a real reason. For example, if you interrupt someone, if you cause inconvenience, or if you make an actual mistake that affects others. But even then, apologize once, not repeatedly. Repeating sorry sends the message that you feel inferior. In professional English, confidence is built through balance. Be polite, but do not apologize unnecessarily. Here is a simple replacement strategy. Instead of sorry, say, one moment, let me think, let me correct that, let me rephrase, let me continue. These expressions sound confident, they sound controlled, they keep your communication strong. Now we move to habit number 3. This habit makes even advanced learners sound less confident than they are. It is the habit of speaking too fast. When you speak fast, you may feel that you sound fluent. But from the listener's perspective, fast speech often sounds nervous, unclear, and difficult to understand. Professional English prefers clarity over speed. Speaking slowly does not make you sound weak. Speaking slowly makes you sound intentional. It makes you sound thoughtful. It makes your ideas easy to follow. When you speak slowly, your pronunciation becomes clearer. Your sentence structure becomes cleaner. Your message becomes easier to understand. Let me demonstrate the difference. Here is fast speech, so I think we could probably finish this project by Friday. Work all together and focus on the main points. Now here is slower, more professional speech. I think we can finish this project by Friday if we work together and focus on the main points. The second version is clear, calm, and confident. You can feel the difference. If you want to sound professional, slow down. Take your time. Professional communication is not a race. It is not about who speaks the fastest. It is about who speaks the clearest. Before we end part 2, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Which of these habits do you recognize in yourself? Do you use filler words too often? Do you apologize more than necessary? Do you speak faster than you need to? Awareness is the first step to improvement. In part 3, we will continue with habit number 4. This habit affects many learners, even those with strong grammar and vocabulary. It is a habit that can reduce the power of your ideas and make your message sound weaker than it truly is. In part 3, I will show you exactly what it is and how to change it permanently. Habit number 4 is a subtle habit, but it has a powerful effect on how your message is received. This habit is using weak, uncertain language. Weak language is language that does not support your message. It makes your statements sound softer, less confident, and less professional, even when you fully believe what you are saying. You may not even notice when you use weak language. It often appears in expressions like, I think maybe, I am not sure, but, kind of, sort of, probably, maybe we can, maybe it is good, and I guess. These words are not always wrong, but when you use them too often in a professional setting, they make your message sound less certain. They make your ideas sound less strong. And they make you sound less confident than you really are. Let me show you how this happens in real communication. Imagine you are in a meeting, and your manager asks for your recommendation. If you answer like this, I think maybe we should sort of try a different approach, because maybe this method is not really working. Your idea might be excellent, but your language is soft. It sounds uncertain. It sounds hesitant. Now compare that with a stronger version. I recommend trying a different approach because this method is not producing the results we need. Look at the difference. The meaning is almost the same, but the second version is clear, direct, and confident. And here is the most important part. You did not need advanced vocabulary. You did not need complicated grammar. You simply removed weak language. Many English learners use weak language because they feel nervous. They are afraid of sounding too direct. They are afraid of offending someone. Or they are afraid of making a mistake. But in professional English, clarity is not rude. Confidence is not impolite. Direct communication is respected. People want to hear your ideas clearly. They want to understand what you recommend. They want to trust your opinion. Strong language builds that trust. So how do you fix this habit? You replace weak expressions with strong but simple alternatives. Instead of, I think maybe, say I believe. Instead of maybe we can, say we can. Instead of I guess, say I suggest. Instead of sort of, drop it completely. Speak with intention. If you know something, say it clearly. If you recommend something, express it confidently. Your goal is not to sound perfect. Your goal is to sound professional. Now we move to habit number 5. This habit affects the structure of your English more than your vocabulary or pronunciation. Habit 5 is building long, complicated sentences. English learners often create long sentences because they want to sound advanced. They want to show their knowledge. But long sentences do not make you sound advanced. In professional English, long sentences make your ideas harder to understand. They create confusion. They create mistakes, and they increase the chance of miscommunication. Professional English values clarity. Clarity comes from simple, direct sentences. When you use long sentences with too many ideas, you create unnecessary complexity. Let me show you what I mean. Here is an example of a long, complicated sentence. If we want to improve our customer satisfaction results, which have been lower this quarter compared to the previous quarter because of slower response times, then I think we should consider developing a new system to handle customer requests more quickly. But we also need to make sure that the team is trained well enough to use the new system effectively. This sentence contains good ideas, but they are hidden inside too many layers. Now look at the simpler, more professional version. Our customer satisfaction results dropped this quarter because of slower response times. To improve this, we should develop a faster system for handling customer requests. We also need to train the team to use the new system effectively. Same ideas, same information, but the second version is clear, direct, and easy to understand. Simple sentences do not make you sound less intelligent. They make your communication stronger. You may think that long sentences sound more formal, but in modern professional English, clarity is more important than formality. People listen faster than they read. So when you speak in long structures, listeners cannot process your ideas quickly enough. When you speak in short, clear sentences, your message becomes stronger, your confidence becomes clearer, and your communication becomes more effective. Now let's move to habit number 6. This habit is common among learners who study grammar deeply. Habit 6 is focusing too much on correctness instead of communication. Many learners become stuck because they are afraid of making a mistake. They stop speaking because they are looking for the perfect grammar structure. They hesitate because they want to use the perfect tense. They lose confidence because they think one mistake will ruin their message. But in professional English, people do not care about perfection. They care about understanding your ideas. Communication is always more important than correctness. You can have perfect grammar, but deliver a weak message. You can make small grammatical mistakes, but deliver a strong professional message. Native speakers make grammar mistakes every day. They use informal structures. They mix tenses. They use imperfect sentences. But their communication is still strong because they focus on delivering their message, not on sounding flawless. Imagine two people speaking English in a meeting. The first person says, "Excuse me, sorry for my grammar. I am trying to say that the report is not finished, because I am, I have been, sorry. I mean, I did not get enough information." The second person says, "The report is not finished, because I need more information. I will complete it as soon as I receive it." The second version is clearer, even though the grammar is simple. Communication is the goal. Correctness is a tool, not the destination. When you focus too much on perfection, you lose fluency. When you focus too much on correctness, you lose confidence. When you focus on communication, everything improves faster. Before we end part 3, I want to prepare you for the next section. There's one more habit, habit number 7. And it might be the most important one of all. It is a habit that stops learners from sounding natural, confident, and professional, even when they know vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. This habit affects emotional expression, tone, and connection with listeners. In part 4, we will talk about habit number 7 in detail. It is a powerful transformation point in your English-speaking journey. And once you understand it, you will change the way you speak forever. Habit number 7 is one of the most important habits we will discuss in this entire lesson. It is a habit that influences not only the words you speak, but the way people perceive your personality, your confidence, and your professional presence. This habit is speaking with a flat, low-energy tone. In other words, speaking without expression, without variation, without emotion. Many English learners focus strongly on vocabulary and grammar, but they forget something essential: tone. In professional English, tone carries power. Tone communicates confidence, clarity, and personality. Tone shows that you are engaged. Tone shows that you care. Tone helps people trust you, understand you, and connect with you. But when you speak with a flat tone, even if your grammar is perfect and your vocabulary is advanced, your message becomes weaker. Flat tone makes you sound tired, uncertain, or unprepared. It makes your ideas sound less important. It makes listeners lose interest. And in a professional environment, especially in meetings, presentations, or interviews, tone is often the difference between sounding competent and sounding unconvincing. Let me give you an example. Imagine saying this sentence with a flat tone. I think this project will be successful. Now imagine saying the same sentence with natural emphasis and confidence. I think this project will be successful. The words are the same, but the feeling is completely different. In the first version, the message is flat. In the second version, it sounds clear, confident, and meaningful. Tone does not mean being dramatic. Tone does not mean exaggerating your emotions. Tone means using natural variation in your voice. It means lifting your tone slightly at the end of a question. It means lowering your tone to show certainty. It means adding a small rise in your voice to show enthusiasm. Tone does not need to be extreme. Even small differences create a powerful effect. Why do English learners struggle with tone? There are several reasons. One reason is fear. Fear of sounding strange. Fear of sounding too emotional. Fear of being misunderstood. Another reason is cultural. Some cultures value calm, quiet, and neutral tone during communication. But in English, especially professional English, a neutral tone often sounds uninterested. Listeners may think you do not care about the topic, even if you actually care a lot. Another reason learners speak with a flat tone is because they are focusing too much on grammar or vocabulary when speaking. When your brain is busy searching for the correct word or structure, it becomes difficult to express tone naturally. But tone is part of natural communication. And when you shift your focus from perfection to clarity, tone becomes easier. There is also a psychological aspect. Many learners feel that their voice changes when they speak English. They feel different in their second language. They feel less expressive. But you can train your voice to feel comfortable, natural, and expressive in English. You just need practice, awareness, and the right techniques. So, how do you fix this habit? Let me give you a simple technique called the 3-tone method. This technique helps you build natural tone variation in professional English. Tone 1 is the neutral tone. This is your base tone, your foundation. It is calm, steady, and relaxed. You use this tone for simple information. For example, the meeting starts at 9. Tone 2 is the confident tone. This tone is slightly lower, more deliberate, and more controlled. It communicates certainty, professionalism, and leadership. For example, I am confident we can finish this on time. Tone 3 is the positive tone. This tone has a small rise, a little more energy, and a feeling of enthusiasm. You use this for motivation, teamwork, and good news. For example, I am excited to share our progress. When you combine these three tones in your communication, you sound balanced, confident, and professional. You do not sound flat. You do not sound bored. You sound natural. Let's apply this method to a short example. Imagine you are presenting an update to your team. Using all three tones, it might sound like this. Neutral tone. We reviewed the current data this morning. Confident tone. The results show strong improvement. Positive tone. And I am excited to share our next steps. Three tones, three purposes, one complete message. If you use a flat tone for all three sentences, it loses impact. But with tone variation, your message sounds alive, clear, and engaging. That is exactly how professionals communicate in English. Now that we have covered all 7 habits, I want to take a moment to help you reflect on everything we have discussed so far. You learned about filler words, unnecessary apologies, speaking too fast, weak language, long sentences, over-focus on correctness, and flat tone. These habits are common. They are normal, but they are not permanent. You can change them. And when you change them, your English becomes stronger, clearer, and more professional. Now let's connect this to the deeper purpose of this lesson. Speaking English professionally is not just about language. It is about identity. It is about how you present yourself to the world. It is about how you show your confidence, your intelligence, and your expertise. When you remove bad habits, you are not just improving your English. You are improving your presence. You are improving your influence. You are improving your professional life. Before we end part 4, I want to guide you into what we will explore in part 5. In the next section, we will begin applying everything you have learned. You will learn powerful techniques to correct these habits in real situations. We will break them down step by step so you can practice them, master them, and bring them into your everyday English. Part 5 will focus on transformation. You will learn how to change your speaking style in practical, simple, and effective ways that any learner can use. You will learn how to sound confident even when you feel nervous. You will learn how to build strong habits that make your English clearer and more professional every single day. In part 5, we begin the transformation process. Now that you understand the 7 habits that weaken professional English, it is time to begin the transformation. Part 5 is all about action. This is where you learn powerful techniques to replace old habits with new, stronger patterns. These techniques are simple, practical, and designed for English learners from any background. You do not need advanced grammar. You do not need perfect pronunciation. You only need awareness and practice. We will begin with the first transformation, learning to pause with confidence. Earlier, you discovered that filler words like and weaken your communication. But removing filler words is not just about elimination. It is about replacing them with confident pauses. Silence can be powerful, but only when it is controlled. So here is a technique called the one-breath pause. The one-breath pause is very simple. Before you speak, take one slow breath, just one. This breath creates a natural moment of silence. It gives your brain time to prepare the sentence. It gives your voice stability. and it removes the instinct to use filler words. Let's imagine someone asks you, "What is your opinion about the new strategy?" Instead of rushing into, I think maybe, you take one breath and say, "My opinion is that the new strategy has strong potential." You did not rush. You did not apologize. You did not use uncertain language. You simply paused, breathed, and spoke clearly. Practicing this technique for just a few days will reduce filler words more effectively than anything else. Now let's transform habit 2. Unnecessary apologies. Many learners apologize because they feel pressured to speak perfectly. But professional English is not about perfection. It is about delivery. So here is a technique called the reset phrase method. Instead of apologizing, you use a neutral, confident phrase to reset your sentence. For example, if you make a small mistake, instead of saying, sorry, my grammar is not good, try saying, let me rephrase that, or let me say that more clearly, or I will continue. These reset phrases communicate confidence, they show control, and they show that you are focused on communication, not perfection. You do not need to apologize for being a learner. You do not need to apologize for thinking. You do not need to apologize for correcting yourself. You only need to continue speaking with clarity. Now let's transform habit 3. Speaking too fast. Speaking too fast is usually caused by stress, fear, or the desire to sound fluent. But fluency is not speed. Fluency is ease. Professional English requires clarity, not racing. So here is a simple technique called the 3-word anchor. The 3-word anchor means choosing 3 words in each sentence to emphasize slightly. The emphasis slows you down naturally. For example, consider this sentence: I think we can finish the project by Friday. If you emphasize the words think, finish, and Friday, your speech becomes slower, more intentional, and more professional. Like this: I think we can finish the project by Friday. You did not slow down artificially. You slowed down naturally by guiding your voice. When you choose anchor words in your speech, you automatically sound clearer and more confident. Your brain cannot rush when your voice is emphasizing key words. This is one of the fastest ways to create professional pacing. Now let's transform habit 4. Weak language. Weak language is a habit that can disappear quickly once you replace it with stronger alternatives. The technique for this is called the power swap. It works by replacing softening words with confident alternatives. Here are common power swaps. Instead of I think maybe, say I believe. Instead of I guess, say I suggest. Instead of maybe we can, say we can. Instead of sort of, remove it. Instead of I am not sure, but, say here is my perspective. These small swaps change the tone of your message completely. They make you sound decisive without being aggressive. They make you sound confident without being rude. Remember that confidence in English is not about volume or authority. It is about clarity. When your language is strong, your message becomes strong. Now let's transform habit 5. Long, complicated sentences. The technique for this is called the one-idea rule. The one-idea rule says, 1 sentence, 1 idea, not 3 ideas, not 5, just 1. When you try to put too many ideas into one sentence, listeners feel confused. But when you divide one long idea into several short sentences, listeners understand you immediately. For example, imagine this complicated sentence: if we want to improve this project, which is currently behind schedule because of unexpected challenges, then we should reorganize the tasks and adjust the timeline so everything is more efficient. That sentence contains multiple ideas. Using the one idea rule, we break it down. The project is behind schedule because of unexpected challenges. To improve it, we should reorganize the tasks. We should also adjust the timeline to increase efficiency. 3 simple sentences, 3 clear ideas. Professional English is often simpler than you think. Simple sentences build trust. They help your listeners follow your ideas in real time. They reduce your stress because you're not trying to manage a long, complex structure. Now let's transform habit 6, focusing too much on correctness. This transformation requires a psychological shift. The technique is called speak forward. Speak forward means that no matter what happens, you keep speaking. If you make a mistake, you do not stop. You do not restart your entire sentence. You do not freeze. You simply continue forward. For example, if you say, "The report was prepared by our team," and you correct it quickly, that is, speak forward. Small corrections are natural. Small mistakes do not matter. Communication continues. The goal is not perfect accuracy. The goal is meaningful connection. Finally, let's transform habit 7, flat tone. The technique for tone transformation is the 3-tone practice, which you learned in part 4. But now, we apply it actively. You choose a paragraph and read it using the neutral tone, the confident tone, and the positive tone. When you do this every day for 2 minutes, your voice becomes flexible, your tone becomes alive, and your communication becomes more professional. Before we end part 5, I want you to understand something important. Changing habits takes time. It does not happen in one day. But each small improvement adds up. Every time you pause, instead of using a filler word, you improve. Every time you use a reset phrase, instead of apologizing, you improve. Every time you choose a simple sentence, instead of a long one, you improve. In part 6, we will begin applying these transformations through real-life speaking scenarios. You will learn how to use these techniques in meetings, presentations, interviews, teamwork discussions, and everyday professional conversations. Part 6 will take you deeper into practice, helping you bring these new skills into the real world. Now that we have explored several habits that quietly weaken your professional English, it is time to go even deeper into how you present yourself through your speaking style. In this part, Amelia continues guiding you through another subtle but powerful habit that many English learners struggle with when trying to sound confident, credible, and clear in a professional environment. Remember, these habits often work behind the scenes, and most people do not even know they have them. But once you remove them, your English becomes more natural, more authoritative, and more effective in every situation, from meetings to presentations to interviews. Today's focus is on bad habit number 5, speaking with mentally translated English. This is one of the most common habits worldwide, and it is something I see even in students who have studied English for 10 years or more. It is not about how smart you are. It is about the way your brain tries to help you by taking shortcuts. But sometimes, these shortcuts slow down your fluency more than they help you. So let's break it down, understand it from the inside, and learn how to fix it step by step. Imagine this situation. You are in a meeting. Someone asks you a simple question. such as, "Can you explain your idea?" or "What do you think about this plan?" You know exactly what you want to say in your native language. The idea is clear, the logic is correct, you understand everything. But when you open your mouth, your brain begins a complicated process that slows everything down. First, you think in your language. Then you try to find the English version. Then you check if the grammar is correct. Then you wonder if the sentence is too long, too short, or too direct. By the time all of this processing is done, you either speak slowly, or you hesitate, or you lose confidence. This is the mental translation habit, and it is one of the biggest reasons English learners feel frustrated. It makes speaking feel heavy, slow, and stressful. It makes you feel like English is a test, not a tool. But professional communication cannot wait for translations. People expect quick responses, natural reactions, and confident delivery. So how do we break this habit? The first step is understanding why this habit exists. When you learn English in a traditional classroom, the focus is often on rules, grammar, and vocabulary lists. You repeat sentences, you memorize structures, you translate texts. This builds knowledge, but it does not build automatic fluency. Fluency needs one thing: direct connection between ideas and English words. Not ideas to native language to English, just ideas to English. This is how native speakers think, and this is also how advanced English learners think. Not by translation, but by direct expression. So how do you move from translation to direct English thinking? You do not need to force yourself to think in English all day. That does not work for most people. Instead, you train your brain in specific, controlled moments. Think of it as building a mental muscle. You start small, simple, and consistent. One powerful technique is called microphrasing. This means choosing very small pieces of English that you use automatically, without thinking. For example, in a professional setting, you use phrases like, "Let me explain. Here is what I mean, in my opinion." To be honest, I would suggest we should consider these short phrases act like bridges. They give you a starting point. Instead of translating your thoughts, you jump directly into English using one of these building blocks. And once you start speaking, your brain continues in English naturally. The first sentence is always the hardest. Microphrases make that first sentence effortless. Another helpful strategy is thinking out loud in English for 1 or 2 minutes every day. You do not need a teacher. You do not need a partner. You only need your voice. Choose a simple topic each day, like what you plan to do tomorrow, or what you learned at work, or what you want to improve in your life. Then explain it in English. Do not worry about mistakes. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reducing translation. You are training your brain to use English as your default communication tool. Next, focus on chunking. This means practicing English in meaningful blocks, not individual words. For example, instead of thinking of the words discuss, the project, you learn the block discuss the project as one unit. When your brain uses chunks, translation disappears because you are not building sentences from scratch. You are selecting ready-to-use expressions. Another common obstacle is fear of making mistakes. Many learners think they must speak perfectly, so they mentally translate to avoid errors. But in professional life, people value clarity more than perfection. Even native speakers make mistakes. Even managers speak imperfectly. In fact, Fluent speakers often correct themselves naturally in the middle of a sentence. Mistakes are not the enemy. Silence, hesitation, and confusion are the real obstacles. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. When you accept this, your fluency rises instantly. Now let's look at a real example. To understand how translation slows down your English, imagine you want to say, "I need more time to finish this project." A person who translates mentally might think in their native language first, then try to convert each word, then worry about grammar. Meanwhile, a fluent speaker uses a chunk. They think directly in English, "I need more time." Then they simply add the context, "to finish this project." That tiny difference completely changes your speaking speed. Another example is expressing opinions. Instead of translating complex opinion sentences, use ready-made English frames, like, "From my perspective, I believe that the way I see it." When you begin with these structures, your brain stays in English mode from the very beginning, which eliminates the translation habit. Of course, breaking this habit takes time. It is not something you fix in one day or 1 week, but if you practice regularly, even for a few minutes a day, you will see dramatic improvement in how fast and naturally your English flows. And once this happens, speaking becomes enjoyable. You stop worrying about grammar. You stop worrying about vocabulary. You start focusing on the message and the conversation, which is exactly what professional communication requires. In the next part, we will continue exploring another subtle habit that many English learners experience without realizing it. And once again, we will unlock strategies to remove it so your English sounds more confident, more professional, and more natural. In this part, Amelia continues guiding you through another deeply embedded habit that affects many English learners, even those who study for years, work in international companies, or communicate daily in English. This is a habit that slowly reduces clarity, weakens confidence, and creates misunderstandings, especially in professional settings where communication must be clear, direct, and efficient. Today we explore bad habit number 6, using overcomplicated sentences when simple English works better. This habit appears harmless on the surface. You may think that the more advanced your vocabulary is, the more natural you sound. You may believe that long sentences show intelligence or high-level English. But in reality, professional English values clarity over complexity. People want information quickly. They want your idea immediately. They want your message to be simple, strong, and straightforward. Long, complicated sentences often do the opposite. They hide your message under too many words. They make your communication slower. They make your listener work harder to understand you. And in professional communication, whenever your listener has to work harder, your message loses power. Let's start with a simple scenario. You are presenting a project update. You want to explain a delay. A person with this bad habit might say something like, "Due to several unexpected circumstances that have arisen during the implementation of the previous steps of the plan, we might need to extend the timeline slightly in order to ensure the final output meets the quality that we originally intended." Although this sentence is correct, it is heavy, it is long. It forces your listeners to wait until the very end before understanding the real message. Now imagine someone who speaks with strong professional clarity. That person would simply say, "We had some unexpected challenges, so we need a little more time to make sure the final result meets our quality standards." The meaning is the same, but the second version is clearer, faster, and easier to follow. This is professional English at its best, not complex, not showy, just effective. Why do learners fall into this habit? There are three main reasons. First, many learners believe advanced English equals difficult vocabulary. They think that using simpler words makes them sound less intelligent. But this is not true. In business, management, customer service, healthcare, engineering, and every professional field, the best communicators use simple English to express complex ideas. Simplicity is not a weakness, it is a strength. Second, many learners try to translate complicated structures from their native language. Some languages naturally use long sentences with multiple clauses, but English prefers shorter, cleaner structures. When you bring long native language structures into English, your sentences become heavy and unnatural. Third, some learners feel insecure about their English level. They overcompensate by trying to make their English sound advanced through long sentences and rare vocabulary. But in professional English, advanced means effective, not complicated. Now let's break this habit using clear strategies and practical exercises. The first strategy is the one idea rule. Each sentence should communicate one clear idea. If you find yourself trying to fit 2 or 3 ideas into one sentence, separate them. For example, instead of saying, "The meeting was postponed because the team was unavailable, and also because we need more time to prepare the documents that will be presented next week," you can break it into 2 clean sentences. The meeting was postponed because the team was unavailable. We also need more time to prepare the documents for next week. The message is easier to follow. The flow is smoother. The professional tone feels more controlled and confident. The second strategy is shorten the distance between meaning and words. Say the most important thing first, then add the supporting details. English prefers front-loaded meaning. For example, instead of, "In order to successfully proceed with the next stage of the design, we require approval from the management team," try, "We need management approval before we can move to the next stage of the design." Simple, direct, natural. The third strategy is replace complex vocabulary with everyday professional English. Many learners choose longer or less common words because they believe they sound more impressive. But clarity is always more impressive. For example, utilize becomes use, commence becomes start, terminate becomes end, demonstrate becomes show, approximately becomes about. These shorter words are not basic. They are professional. They are what managers use. They are what team leaders use. They are what international companies expect. The fourth strategy is chunk your message into short spoken units. When speaking, do not produce one long paragraph. Produce short, clear blocks. Your listeners will understand more easily, and your speaking will feel more natural. For example, instead of one long sentence, speak in 3 small phrases. "We had a delay." "The supplier delivered late." "We are adjusting the schedule now." This style communicates confidence because it shows you are in control of your message. Another helpful exercise is rewriting. Take any long sentence you usually use and rewrite it in 3 different simple versions. This trains your brain to choose clarity automatically. Over time, your natural speaking style becomes clean and professional. Now let's examine the emotional impact of this habit. Many learners feel proud when they create long sentences because they believe they are showing their knowledge. But in real professional life, your goal is to make the listener understand you instantly. When your English is simple and clear, you appear more confident, more organized, and more professional. This is what managers value. This is what teammates appreciate. This is what international workplaces expect. Simplicity builds trust. Let's explore a quick comparison to feel the difference. Imagine you want to say that you will review a document again before submitting it. A person with a complication habit might say, before finalizing and submitting the document to the management team, I would like to carefully reassess certain components to ensure accuracy and completeness. But strong professional English sounds like this. I will review the document again before submitting it to make sure everything is accurate. Same message, much more effective. As you practice these strategies, you will notice improvements, not only in your speaking, but also in your thinking. Your ideas will feel more organized. Your expression will feel clearer. Your communication will feel more natural. And this transformation will help you tremendously in meetings, presentations, interviews, collaborations, and networking events. In the next part, we will continue with the seventh and final habit, a habit that silently reduces your professional presence and prevents your English from sounding confident and natural. Once we uncover it and learn how to fix it, your professional English will rise to a new level. In this part, Amelia guides you into the final and perhaps most silent habit of all, a habit that hides inside your tone, your posture, your delivery, and even the way your voice sounds when you speak English. It is a habit that many learners never recognize, yet it influences the way others perceive them. In meetings, interviews, presentations, and daily conversations. Today we explore bad habit number 7, speaking without vocal confidence. This habit is powerful because it does not come from grammar or vocabulary. It comes from emotion. It comes from hesitation. It comes from the tiny moment when you open your mouth and worry about whether your English sounds good enough. This hesitation enters your voice. It changes the rhythm of your speech. It makes your tone softer, your sentences weaker, and your message less convincing. Even if your English is grammatically correct, the lack of vocal confidence can make you sound unsure or unprepared. Now, imagine two people saying the exact same sentence. I think we should move forward with this plan. One person says it with a steady tone, clear articulation, and natural pacing. The listener feels confidence. They trust the speaker. They believe the message. The other person says the same sentence too quietly, too fast, or with rising intonation at the end, as if asking a question instead of giving an opinion. Suddenly, the message loses strength, even though the words are perfect. This is the silent influence of vocal confidence. Why does this habit appear? There are 3 main reasons that impact learners all around the world. First, fear of making mistakes. When you worry about grammar, pronunciation, or vocabulary, your brain shifts energy away from your voice. Instead of speaking naturally, you speak cautiously. Your voice becomes thin and uncertain. But confidence does not come from perfect English. It comes from controlled delivery. Second, lack of practice speaking out loud. Many learners study English with books, apps, or silent practice. They read, they listen, they write, but they do not speak enough. Speaking requires your voice, your breath, your mouth muscles. If these muscles are not trained, your voice will feel weak in English, even if you are fluent in your mind. Third, cultural expectations. In some cultures, speaking softly is polite. In some cultures, directness is avoided. In some cultures, expressing strong opinions is not common. But professional English communication usually requires a clear, steady, and confident vocal style. When learners bring their cultural tone into English, they sometimes sound less confident without realizing it. Let's break this habit step by step so your English sounds strong, trustworthy, and professional. The first strategy is master your pace. Many learners speak too quickly because they want to hide mistakes or finish the sentence before they lose their idea. But fast speech does not sound fluent. It sounds nervous. Professional English requires controlled pacing. Slow down your speed just slightly. Give each idea space. Let your words breathe. When your pacing is stable, your message feels stronger and more organized. The second strategy is use confident sentence endings. Many learners unintentionally raise their pitch at the end of sentences. This makes a statement sound like a question. For example, we completed a report yesterday. If spoken with rising intonation, it becomes, we completed the report yesterday. This sounds uncertain. Instead, end your sentences with a downward tone. This gives your message a grounded, confident presence. It signals that you believe what you are saying. The third strategy is develop breath-supported speech. Confidence often disappears because learners speak from their throat instead of their breath. This makes the voice thin and weak. To fix this, take a light breath before speaking. Allow your voice to come from your chest, not your throat. This creates a fuller, warmer, stronger sound. You do not need to speak loudly. You need to speak with controlled energy. Another strategy is voice activation practice, which means warming up your voice before important meetings or presentations. You can hum for 30 seconds. You can practice saying simple phrases like, I can explain that. Here is the main point. Let me share my idea. These warm-ups activate your vocal muscles and make your voice clearer and more stable. Next, focus on emphasis. Confidence is communicated through the words you stress. For example, listen to the difference in emphasis. I think we should consider another option. I think we should consider another option. Each version communicates a different message. When you choose the correct word to emphasize, your idea becomes stronger. Practice this by reading sentences out loud and experimenting with which words carry the most weight. Another technique is pause power. Confident speakers use pauses strategically. They pause before important points. They pause after delivering key ideas. They pause to let their message land. Pausing does not show weakness. It shows control. It shows presence. It creates space for clarity. For example, we have a challenge. Pause. But we also have a solution. This simple pause creates impact. Now let's reflect on how vocal confidence affects real situations. In a meeting, confident tone helps people trust your ideas. In an interview, it helps the interviewer feel your certainty. In presentations, it captures attention. In daily conversation, it creates comfort and credibility. Even if your grammar is not perfect, a confident voice makes your English sound stronger, clearer, and more professional. To train this skill further, record your voice for 1 minute a day. You do not need special equipment. Use your phone. Choose any topic and speak naturally. Then listen to your recording. Do you speak too fast, too soft, with rising intonation, with unclear stress, or with strong, steady delivery. Recording is one of the most powerful ways to identify your vocal habits. In just 1 week, you will notice improvement. Next, try reading scripts out loud, especially short paragraphs. This builds vocal memory. It trains your muscles. It prepares your voice for real communication. This is the same method actors, presenters, journalists, and public speakers use. They train their voice, not just their language. Finally, remember this truth. Sounding confident is not about being perfect. It is about being present. Professional English is not a test of grammar. It is a demonstration of clarity, stability, and trustworthiness. When your voice carries confidence, people listen more. They respect your message. They believe your ideas. And your English becomes a powerful tool in every situation. Now that we have explored all 7 bad habits, in the next part, we will bring everything together and show you how removing these habits can completely transform the way you speak English professionally. In this part, Amelia brings together the lessons we have explored so far and begins shaping them into a clear, powerful understanding of how these habits influence your English in real professional situations. Now that you have learned all 7 bad habits, it is time to see how they connect, how they affect each other, and how you can eliminate them in a practical, realistic way that fits your daily life. This part prepares your mind for full transformation before we move into the final section of the script. Let's begin by revisiting the big picture. You now know the 7 habits that most English learners develop without realizing it. Hesitation, overusing fillers, relying on memorized scripts, translating mentally, speaking in overly complicated sentences, using weak or unclear structures, lack of vocal confidence. These habits do not come from lack of intelligence. They do not come from lack of study. They come from the way your brain, your culture, your habits, and your learning experience shape your English. But the most important thing to understand is this: each habit affects the others. They are not separate problems. They form a chain. And if you break one link, the whole chain begins to loosen. For example, when you stop translating mentally, your hesitation decreases. When hesitation decreases, you rely less on fillers. When fillers disappear, your voice becomes clearer. When your voice is clearer, your confidence rises. When your confidence rises, your sentence structure becomes simpler and more natural. This is why improving professional English is not about learning hundreds of techniques. It is about removing the mental barriers that stop your natural ability. Think of your English as a road. These 7 habits are bumps and cracks along that road. Once you smooth them out, your communication becomes faster, smoother, and more enjoyable. This is how fluent speakers operate, not by knowing thousands of advanced words, but by removing the friction that slows down their thinking and speaking. Now imagine real professional situations. Picture yourself in a meeting. You are sitting at a table with colleagues from different countries. Someone presents an idea. The manager turns to you and asks, "What do you think?" Before you learned about these habits, you might have hesitated, translated mentally, tried to think of a long sentence, and spoken without confidence. You might have worried about mistakes, worried about vocabulary, or worried about how your English sounded. But now, with this new understanding, the moment feels different. You take a light breath. You choose a simple, clear structure, such as, "From my perspective," or "I think the best approach is." Your pacing is steady. Your tone is confident. Your sentence is simple. You speak clearly, without fillers, and suddenly, the room listens. You have presence. You have clarity. You have control. This is the power of breaking these 7 habits. Let's explore how each habit influences your professional identity. Your English is not just a tool. It is part of your personal brand. Every time you speak, people form impressions, confident or unsure, clear or confusing, prepared or overwhelmed, assertive or passive. Your voice becomes an extension of your personality. That is why eliminating these habits is not only about language improvement, it is about self-image, professional credibility, and emotional confidence. Let's look at another example. Imagine you are presenting a new idea to your team. Before, you might have used long, complicated sentences to sound more advanced, but now you understand that simple English is more powerful. You say, "Here is the main idea. This is our challenge. This is our solution. Here are the next steps." These short sentences guide your listeners through your message effortlessly. You become a leader, not only because of your ideas, but because of how clearly you communicate them. Next, let's consider the emotional transformation. Many English learners live with a quiet fear inside. The fear of being misunderstood, the fear of sounding unprofessional, the fear of making mistakes in front of others. This fear often grows because learners focus too much on grammar and too little on communication habits. But once you begin controlling your tone, your pace, your structure, and your confidence, that fear begins to disappear. And here is the truth. Professional English is not perfection. It is clarity, plus confidence, plus connection. Once you master these, your English becomes a powerful tool that helps you grow, express your ideas, build trust, and create opportunities. Another important transformation is mental freedom. When you stop translating and start thinking directly in English, your brain finally relaxes. Speaking feels lighter. Ideas flow faster. You no longer feel like you are performing a difficult task. You feel like you are communicating naturally. This mental shift is what advanced speakers experience every day. Now let's connect these habits to communication in interviews. Many learners struggle in interviews, not because they lack skills, but because they lack delivery. They speak too fast, too quietly, too softly, or with too much hesitation. But when you remove these habits, your interview answers sound organized and confident. For example, instead of giving a long, complicated explanation, you say, "My strength is communication. I stay calm, focused, and organized when working under pressure." Let me give you a quick example. This structure is simple, clear, and effective. Professional English is never about complicated vocabulary. It is about leading your listener through your ideas with confidence. Let's move into another real situation: negotiations or discussions. When you speak with fillers like or you know, people may feel you are unsure. When your intonation rises at the end of statements, they may feel you are questioning yourself. When your sentences are too long, the key points disappear. But once you break these habits, your negotiation style becomes strong and clear. You say, "I understand your point. Here is my perspective. Let's find a solution that works for both sides." Short, powerful sentences create authority. Now let's talk about international communication. English is a global language. When you work with people from different countries, India, Vietnam, Brazil, Germany, Korea, Mexico, Japan, Egypt, Indonesia, and many more, You need English that is easy for everyone to understand. Complex vocabulary is not helpful. Clear, simple English is universal. It builds bridges. It prevents confusion. It makes teamwork smoother. When you eliminate these 7 habits, your English becomes globally accessible. Finally, let's reflect on the personal growth that comes from this journey. Improving professional English is not only about language, it is about becoming a clearer thinker, a more confident speaker, a more effective communicator, a more respected professional. When you remove these habits, you do not just speak better, you become better. In the final part, we will bring everything together into a strong conclusion that reinforces your transformation and encourages your viewers to continue learning, improving, and growing with MindFlow English. In this final part, Amelia brings everything together, helping you understand not only what to change, but how these changes will permanently transform the way you communicate in English. This is the final chapter of your journey through the 7 bad habits. And now we focus on your long-term growth, your confidence, and the new version of yourself that emerges when these habits disappear. Let's begin by imagining the person you were before this lesson started. Perhaps you hesitated before speaking. Perhaps you relied on fillers. Perhaps you created long sentences because you believed that complexity meant professionalism. Maybe you translated everything in your head before speaking, which slowed your rhythm and weakened your voice. Maybe your ideas were strong, but your delivery was soft, uncertain, or hidden under too many words. You worked hard, you studied hard, yet your English never felt fully natural. But here, on MindFlow English, we have uncovered the truth. Your English has always had potential. It was never your ability that held you back. It was your habits. Now imagine who you are becoming. You speak with clarity. You think in clean, simple English structures. You begin sentences confidently. You choose words naturally. You pause with intention. You express your ideas without fear, without apology, without hesitation. You sound strong, not because your grammar is perfect, but because your delivery is controlled and your thoughts are clear. This is the new you, and this transformation is not temporary. It is foundational. Let's look at each habit one more time, briefly, clearly, powerfully, so you walk away with a summary you can remember and apply immediately. Habit 1 taught you to remove hesitation by preparing simple thinking structures and breathing before speaking. Habit 2 taught you to reduce fillers by practicing silence and replacing empty words with intentional pauses. Habit 3 taught you to stop relying on memorized scripts and begin using flexible language patterns that work in any situation. Habit 4 taught you to break the translation habit by building direct mental connections between ideas and English expressions. Habit 5 taught you that simplicity is not weakness. It is the foundation of strong professional communication. Habit 6 taught you to use clean, stable structures that guide your listener clearly through your message. Habit 7 taught you to develop a confident voice, a steady pace, and a grounded tone that makes people trust your ideas. When these 7 habits leave your speaking, your English becomes something completely new. Natural, confident, professional. Now let's imagine real growth in your daily life. You walk into a meeting and feel calm. Instead of preparing complicated sentences in your head, you trust your ability to speak clearly in the moment. When someone asks for your opinion, you respond with confidence. You deliver short, strong sentences that everyone understands immediately. People listen. People respect you. You speak in an interview, and your voice is steady. You show your experience, not through complex grammar, but through clarity and structure. The interviewer feels your professionalism through your tone and confidence. You join a discussion with international colleagues. You speak clearly and slowly enough for people from many countries to understand. Your communication becomes a bridge between cultures. You no longer feel like an outsider. You feel like a global communicator. You give a presentation, and your message stays organized from beginning to end. You avoid unnecessary vocabulary and focus on impact. You use pauses to emphasize your points. Your voice carries confidence. People remember what you say. This is the power of removing these 7 bad habits. Now let's talk about long-term growth. Fluency is not something you achieve once. It is a skill you continue to shape. The more you speak, the more natural it becomes. The more you practice the techniques we explored together, the more automatic they become. Over time, you will not even think about them. They will simply be part of who you are. Here are a few powerful habits to build into your daily life as you move forward. First, practice short speaking sessions every day. 1 or 2 minutes is enough. Talk about your plans, your ideas, your goals, your work. Keep it simple. Keep it natural. Do not correct yourself too much. Just speak. Second, record your voice once a week. This will help you hear your pacing, your tone, your clarity, and your confidence. You do not need perfect pronunciation. You need stable delivery. Third, use English chunks and micro phrases. These are the building blocks of natural communication. Phrases like, "Here is what I think," "Let me explain," "We should consider," "From my point of view," make speaking smoother and more automatic. Fourth, do not chase advanced vocabulary. Chase clarity, chase connection, chase confidence. These are the real markers of professional English. Finally, remember that mistakes are not barriers. They are part of your growth. Even native speakers make mistakes every day. Confidence is not the absence of mistakes. It is the ability to continue speaking calmly, even when mistakes happen. Now that you have reached the end of this script, take a moment to recognize your progress. You have learned the habits. You understand them. You know how to fix them. You know how to grow. You are already stronger than when you started. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a new chapter in your English journey. Here on MindFlow English, Amelia will continue guiding you through more lessons, more techniques, more stories, and more real-life strategies to help you become fluent, confident, and connected in English. You are not learning alone. You are learning with a community of people around the world who share the same goal: to speak English naturally and professionally. Keep practicing, keep improving, keep believing in yourself. Your English is already transforming, and this is just the start. Thank you for learning with MindFlow English.